evening, and welcome to the Milford School Committee meeting, March 20th. Tonight's meeting is being broadcast, and there are members of the media on hand. If anyone wishes to make an audio or video recording of this meeting, please let myself or one of the other members know. First up is approval of minutes. We do have a set of regular school committee meeting minutes from February 27th. Are those that were present had a chance to review those? Have a motion to accept from Christine, second from Mike. All in favor? 5 in favor, 2 abstentions. Minutes pass. Next up is announcements, correspondence, and distributions. Do any members have anything?
I have an announcement.
Patrick?
So sadly, we're losing 2 veteran committee members tonight. And each has contributed in a major way to the success of this committee. Christine, you and I have agreed on almost every curriculum thing except for everyday math. We seem to butt heads on that one a little bit, but you've been such a powerful voice for instruction and curriculum on this committee. And so we're gonna sorely miss your input and your point of view. So thank you, and I wish you all the best of luck.
Thank you.
And Rob, your leadership this year has been a testament to the strength of the committee, honestly. Quiet but strong is how I would characterize it. I think that this past year has been one of my most enjoyable years on the committee. I think that we work together productively, and there's a collegial atmosphere, and it's just something that's been a real pleasure to be a part of, and in large part, that's attributable to your leadership. So we're gonna miss you an awful lot, and thank you so much for serving.
Thank you, Patrick. Great. Where did Mr. Tremblay go?
You started hearing us saying nice things about you, Rob. and I believe you.
Yeah, he left. He heard enough.
Do any other members, Scott?
Yeah, Rob, I would just say, just to echo some of Patrick's comments. Christine, it's been a pleasure to get to know you through being on the committee. The first time I had an opportunity to meet you, I think it was when I was coming in and observing some of the meetings, when I was getting ready to run, I think your first question to me was your dad a school teacher? And I said, yes, he was. And my son, I know that your son had him.
Yep.
And he still speaks very highly of both of you. So must have been doing a good job in the class. But it's been an absolute pleasure to serve with you on the committee, as well as obviously working together on a policy subcommittee. I apologize for running late this evening. But we'll certainly miss your voice up here. You've done just such a great job, and you will be sorely missed. Robbie, it's been a pleasure serving as your vice chair for this last year. You've definitely done it's been an absolute pleasure working with you on the committee. You've done a great job. I think Patrick said it best, which is you've always been the strong, silent type. I think you've done a great job of that very calm, cool, collected persona that you have of taking things in stride. You handle everything with a calm, cool head, which I think is fantastic, and definitely a great leadership strength. So we will definitely miss you on the committee, and wish you nothing but the best. And I'm sure we'll continue to see you around.
Thanks, Scott. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
If I could, Rob, I don't want to repeat everything that Patrick and Scott just said, but
But I'm going to.
That's exactly what that was.
I would open up with whoever is lucky enough, the 2 new members to sit at this table. Get ready. A lot of long hours, a lot of meetings. And so I'm going to say to the 2 of you the same thing that I've said to everybody that's left in the 5 years that I've been here. Christine, you were here when I arrived. Rob, you came after me. But tonight, thank you. From the taxpayers of Milford, I say thank you to the 2 of you. And tonight, we give you back to your families. And thank you very, very much.
Yeah.
So we'll just keep the love fest going?
Well, Bob's back. We can jump right in.
All right. Anyway, my thing, Christine, is you were tremendous in helping me as a new member come in and learn quickly, but also I really respected the effort and work that you put in to the prior to the meetings coming in. You were always informative. For the new members when they come on board, it's really important to really grasp on to some of the knowledge of some of the other people that sit on this board. But Christine, I know I personally am going to miss you, especially when it comes to like the budget conversations and the contracts and everything else like that. And I'm sure I'll be reaching out to you when we go through those things. And Rob, as you know, I mean, I've known you my whole life, so I think even though you're not on the board any longer, things between us aren't gonna change, but thank you for all the support that you've given me over the last couple of years, and I wish you both the best of luck with your future and your families and everything else like that.
Thanks, Simon.
So there's not much more to say. I think it's all been said. But this committee plays a very important symbolic role, and our behavior, how we handle ourselves, has a direct influence on how the entire school system is perceived. And the two of you have represented us extremely well. And over the past year, I've watched both of you very closely, and you've been excellent role models for me, and I really appreciate that. And you both still have a lot to offer, so I hope you continue to be involved within the schools, within the community. I'm sure this isn't the end for you two, so thank you.
And on behalf of the school department and the members of the school committee, have a gift for each of them. I guess this is technically a distribution.
Is it technically
Thank you, Bob.
Donated our whole stipends to you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Mr. Tremblay, do you have anything?
Just a couple of announcements this evening. I discovered that Mrs. Dagny's called to my attention, actually it was Carla Tuttle that called to my attention, the Fuel Up into Place 60 has a calendar. And Milford made the April calendar, so this is Brookside School, Food Service Director Carla Tuttle, Physical Education Teacher Diane Pinto, and School Nurse Judy Dagny's. And this is just part of the program that Judy's written grants before with Carla and with Diane, and so we're featured there. Incidentally,
It's a nationwide program.
I don't know if it's nationwide or New England?
Yes.
It's nationwide.
Oh, that's great.
It was even more fascinating. You know the discovery we made, Judy? On one of the pages, as we're flipping through this, we discover Kevin
Oh,
McIntyre.
come on.
Now,
Oh,
this
no.
prior to
Seriously.
his appointment in Milford, happens to be in the October. So I think it's very telling that we have the right players in Milford schools here.
Absolutely.
So Kevin's in there, which is, he's not here tonight, but at least he's in the calendar. So I wanted to just share that with the committee. And wanted to also share that, the great work that Jen Lancaster's been doing with us for ELL. And we're starting to see now that schools are reaching out to Milford for our direction on how we managed our ELL population. And I wanted to put that out there as a public kudos to Jen for the work that she's done in our growing population, just to know that Milford has become a trendsetter in many regards as to how we manage our ELL population in this community. Franklin also reached out to Milford schools about seeing how our Family Resource Center operates, and they want to come observe that to replicate a model in their town. So it's just great to get that kind of, this committee may not always hear about that sort of reach that these communities make to us, but it's really something to celebrate, that we must be doing things right if people want to come and model after ours. So I wanted to share that with you. The last piece of correspondence that I wanted to share with you is I left it at your seats, is correspondence to Town Hall, and I'll discuss this when I get to the Woodland School report, to the Board of Selectmen concerning the Woodland project, but just so you have that when we get to the Woodland project distribution. And that's all I have this evening.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Just one more thing, want to congratulate Bob on receiving his Doctorate of Education degree. It's a tremendous accomplishment, and I think Robbie said it best in his press release. I think it's a testament to the entire district, and it sets a great example for our staff and our administrators and this committee as well. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no doubt. A lot of years hard work.
A lot of years of hard
Good
work.
for you.
My family's happy that it's over. And I'd like to thank the committee for the support you've given to me over the years in that work. And glad to have it now and still stay focused on the Milford work ahead of us. Thank you.
Excellent. Good. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay, next up, we have invitation to speak. Is there anyone here? Come on up. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, Marcia.
Hi. My name is Marcia Montgomery. I'm a parent here in the district. I currently down to 2 kids in the district, one at Woodland and one up here at the high school this year. I've come before this committee twice before to speak about this topic, and I did earlier this week send an email out to all of the committee members. I do want to read some of that email just so that it's publicly out there. But The reason I'm here tonight is to discuss the proposal that's on the agenda to change our district's current policy regarding lice in our school. While I completely understand that the current CDC and the AAP recommendations are for public schools to do away with the no-knit policy like we currently have here in Milford, there are many benefits to keeping such a policy, number one being the health and safety of our students. A couple of weeks ago, the nursing department sponsored an informational meeting for parents and educators in which Dr. Pollack presented his views on lice. Dr. Richard Pollack touts himself as the lice expert of Harvard School of Public Health. As a parent, I found his presentation patronizing, his demeanor flippant, and borderline sarcastic about a topic in which I don't find anything funny. Nor did I like being spoken to as if we were uneducated, overzealous hypochondriacs that were just overreacting about lice. What we were a room full of parents who have had to deal with one or more of our children having a lice infestation at least once, if not multiple times, over several school years. Each infestation requiring us to put pesticides on our young child. Infestations that required us to spend hundreds of dollars and countless hours making sure we removed the lice, which are insects that feed on our child's head, and then the nits or eggs so that they don't hatch into more bugs. After the meeting, in which the nursing director, when asked if Milford was changing our current policy, told us that it was a done deal, I reached out to the NPA, which is the National Pediclosis Association in Newton. They are a nonprofit organization that has been around since 1983, whose main focus is educating parents and school personnel on how to prevent and treat head lice. Well, I'm not going to read the rest of that. I did forward in the email to you the response that I received from the president of that organization. The questions that I wanted to bring forward tonight. It has been said repeatedly that lice carry no disease and therefore are not a health risk. I beg to differ. While they may not be known to carry any disease, they do pose a risk to the health of our children. First, most children miss school days not because of lice, but due to the intense itching due to lice feeding on the scalp of the child. Secondly, they also miss more days from developing secondary infections from intense scratching. Thirdly, to get rid of the bugs that are feeding on your child, parents need to place pesticides on their scalp that can be absorbed into the body. I do not understand how anyone can argue that treating our children with pesticides isn't a risk to their health. If Dr. Pollack and the CDC say that lice are mainly transmitted only by direct head-to-head contact, and that the chances of getting lice from a hat, comb, clothing touching, or other means is less than 1 in 100,000, why is it that the CDC also still recommends not sharing items worn on the head, washing all clothing and bedding that an infested person has used in the past 2 days, and vacuuming rugs and furniture? Most of our elementary classrooms are set up to encourage small group learning, as they should at this age. Desks are not in rows but are grouped in tables. Small groups of children frequently work in close proximity to each other on the rug or at their group tables. If lice is spread by head-to-head contact and our students are frequently working closely to each other, why are we looking at changing the lice policy to allow students to return to the classroom to finish the school day after it has been determined that they have lice, and then letting them return the next day without proof of treatment or being net-free? What exactly is the motivation for the district to change? Changes that only serve to increase the exposure of lice to our student body. On almost exactly a year ago, on March 21st, 2013, I spoke in front of this committee regarding my concerns about lice in the school, which from talking with other parents at the time appeared to be rampant in the 3 elementary buildings, as well as my concerns that the district as a whole was not doing enough to prevent the spread of lice from student to student. At that time, Mrs. Dagny had supplied the number of lice cases the district had that school year to date, which I believe was somewhere in the low to mid-20s, and highlighted the fact that it was below the state average. My question is, exactly how many cases of lice have we had this year? And on average, how many days of school has each child missed due to a lice infestation? If the reasoning behind changing the current policy is because students are missing too many days and are in danger of repeating a grade, how did we go from last year being below the state average to all of a sudden needing to allow students to return because now all of a sudden they're missing too many days of school. In Dr. Pollack's slideshow, he highlighted the Kewanee County schools, saying that students had missed 2,306 days of school because of head lice. Sounds bad. What he didn't explain was that the Kewanee County School District includes 71 schools that serve 28,481 students in grades pre-K through 12. 28,000 plus students. That's the size of our entire town of Milford. Since lice is primarily an elementary school issue, I researched the district, the Kewanee County School District, to find out approximately how many students were enrolled K through 5, which was 13,927. This makes the average number of days missed per student 6 days, assuming that every child got lice, and it was only in grades K through 5. Doesn't sound as grandiose as 2,306. In fact, it's comparable to the number of days a student might miss for a family vacation or a sports trip during non-vacation weeks. Certainly not enough days to put them in jeopardy of repeating a grade. So I ask again, exactly how many cases of lice have there been this school year, and how many days have students missed directly because they had lice? More pointedly, what is the maximum number of days that one student has missed? Is it really that many that they are in jeopardy of repeating a grade? And if it is, how did Milford get to this point when last year I was told Milford didn't have a lice problem? During Dr. Pollack's presentation, he highlighted the fact that there's no such thing as super lice, or no scientific proof that lice are becoming resistant to over-the-counter treatments. However, there have been several articles that have been published in the last week that prove just the opposite. I'm not going to highlight those. Those were all in the email with links to those articles that I sent you. Dr. Pollack also told us that there was no need to remove the nits after treatment because they are most likely dead or so compromised that they wouldn't hatch. However, he told us the only way to tell if a nit is viable is under a microscope. Since most parents I know don't own microscopes, why does it not make sense to remove all nits, since it cannot be determined with the naked eye which are viable and which aren't? Viable nits that are not removed will hatch into new lice, which have already survived an over-the-counter treatment, thus perpetuating the resistance to over-the-counter treatments. Not only that, the child will now need another round of pesticides applied, and again has exposed classmates to lice. With our current policy, if a child is determined to have lice, the parent must treat the child and remove the nits before the child can return to school. Our current policy holds parents accountable to actually treating their child for the health and safety of all the kids in the school. Unfortunately, we have all seen parents who don't always do the most basic jobs a responsible parent does, like get their child to school on time, feed them breakfast before school, or help them with homework. Be it because they don't have the time because they are working several jobs, or sadly because they have underlying issues that may impact their parenting abilities. Without this requirement, what holds a parent accountable? What incentive is there for them to go out and spend the money to get the over-the-counter medicine to treat their child, and then spend the countless hours needed to remove the nits so they don't hatch into new lice? This new policy will allow students who are determined to have lice during the school day to return to class, since by the time the infestation is discoverable, they have already exposed the classroom. Be that as it may, I find it reckless and irresponsible for the school to further expose our children when they know of an issue. Why is the same thought process not applied to pink eye or strep throat or other communicable illnesses? They've already exposed their classmates, so why do we require them to be on medication for 24 hours or beyond the contagious stage of the illness or virus before they can return to school? The answer is it's because it's for the best of the other students. Because lice aren't known to carry any disease, does that make it not as important for the school to protect our children from it? Since students identified with lice are not sent home, they can potentially continue on to after-school care, whether it's extended day at Brookside or another child care facility within town. In the absence of trust in our in the absence of trust that our public school is doing all things possible to provide a healthy environment and help prevent the spread of lice, some parents will try to find alternate ways to protect our children from having to have yet another pesticide treatment for lice. Some homeopathic treatments that contain tea tree oil or lavender can actually have some serious side effects if used in large quantities for extended period of times. We send our children to your school for 6 hours a day, 180 days a year. I don't think it's too much to ask that the schools do their part to ensure that that environment is as healthy as possible. In addition to being upset about the proposed changes, I'm very concerned with some issues that came to light when I had a follow-up meeting with Mr. Tremblay the week after Dr. Pollock's presentation. First, that it is not a matter of protocol or practice for there to be a parent forum about policy changes within the district. Now, as an administrator who sets policy for my school, I can understand the inherent dangers of such a practice might present. And I'm not suggesting that for every policy change, there needs to be an opportunity for parents to ask questions or present our views. However, for health policies that directly affect the health and safety of our children, I feel that we as parents should have more than just the invitation to speak at the same meeting in which the change is being considered. There should be an open forum in which parents can ask questions and get answers, and committee members can hear both sides of the issue. Secondly, I was very upset to see how hard it was to find a posted agenda for this meeting. The only way I actually knew about this policy change, that it would be on tonight's agenda, was because I personally contacted the superintendent's office to ask when it would be presented, since Mrs. Dagny's already told us it was a done deal at the informational meeting. For the past 10 days, I've checked the school's webpage waiting for the agenda to be posted. There's a whole page for the school committee, even a folder just for agendas, yet nothing has been posted, not even today. I checked the town's website, and other than the date of the meeting, I couldn't find anything. The agenda was finally posted in the patch yesterday at 2:37 p.m. While picking my daughter up at Extended Day, I took a look at the bulletin boards in the lobby and did finally see an agenda posted. However, with the security of the schools set up as they are now, the only way for a parent to actually get into a school is to have a prior approved appointment or have a child in Extended Day. How are parents supposed to be informed of the issues to be discussed as required under the open meeting laws if the only way to view an agenda is in a secured building? Why are the agendas not posted on the webpage? The schools are always telling parents to check the webpage, but it only helps us if the information is actually there. As stated in the guide, the open meeting laws is to ensure transparency in the deliberations on which public policy is based, and I find nothing transparent about the way this agenda was posted. In conclusion, as a parent with children in Milford Public Schools and as an educated preschool director with over 20 years of experience working with children in group settings, I strongly urge you to fully explore both sides of this issue. While changing our policy may be the recommendation of the CDC and the AAP, and even our own nursing director and school physician, it is not a mandate or a regulation. Even the state Massachusetts Department of Health leaves the final determination of the district's policy up to the individual district. Please look at all of the facts and determine that the current policy regarding lice and nits should stand as it is. What the district needs is to better educate parents and students about prevention and follow those practices in the school building. To change our current policy will only lower the standard of care that the school district provides for our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcia. Also, I want to mention, Marcia, and Bob, we should have the agenda posted.
Yeah, I'm looking right
That's,
now, yeah.
we can do that, that's not a hard thing to do.
We'll take care of
It's a
that.
matter of practice, so
Yeah.
it got
I'm not
missed. I
sure
mean,
why
I don't
we-
know
I
why
also
it
do
got
want to
missed.
mention, Marcia, that the open meeting law states the place where the agenda must be posted, and so it's in the town hall, and so that's where it's always posted, I believe a week ahead of time. So it's directly across from Amy's desk, right by the clerk. So if you're standing at the clerk's desk, if you turn around, there's a bulletin board there, that's where the agendas are posted.
We'll get it on the website too.
Yeah, we'll get it on the
Okay.
website, that's,
An easy fix.
yeah, that's an easy fix.
Okay.
Marcia, before you leave, First of all, I want to thank you for all of the work and effort that you put into this
Thank you.
presentation. Honestly, as a member of the school committee, I wish more parents would come up here and voice their opinion and talk to us and bring issues to our attention. That we're here for you. So I applaud you for everything you just did. I did want to address the points that you made about, having a parent committee or parents' involvement in these types of things. Your concern about us hearing about this and making the decision in the same meeting, and providing more of an open forum. So I do want to point out that traditionally what we would do in the situation is have the policy recommendations delivered to us, but reviewed by our policy subcommittee. Right? I know in speaking with Bob last night that process did not take place prior to this meeting. So this is our, every member on this committee, this is our first chance to hear Mrs. Dagny's
Don,
presentation.
If I can interrupt you just for a
Yeah.
minute. This conversation is probably better held, well, as we talk about the policy and we get to that. I
Right.
just, with all due respect to Ms. Montgomery, I appreciate you coming in as well. I appreciate what you have to say. We certainly hear what you're saying. And, I think we should move on and we'll discuss
Yeah,
that.
you're more than
as we-
welcome to stay too.
Right.
you know.
I will be staying.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Invitation to speak? Sure.
I don't have anything prepared.
That's okay.
Kind of off the cuff. I was actually at Dr. Pollock's,
Could you just state your name
I'm
for
sorry.
everybody?
My name
Who
is
you are.
Lisa White, and I am actually a mother in the school system and a nurse substitute. And I was at Dr. Pollock's presentation as well, and I felt completely different. I felt like he had information that was updated and recent, and instead of, I felt actually relieved in a way that all these misconceptions that we've had about lice, both as nurse and mother for years, have been scientifically proven not to be true. So for me, I felt like all those things that my grandmother and mother had told me for so long about head lice really weren't true. So it was, I found it to be very eye-opening and very informative. And I think that what Dr. Pollock said, and he's been a doctor for years, and his business is bugs, and he's been studying bugs for years and years, and he looks at lice and all the scientific data about lice. So the man knows his bugs. I mean, he really does. And he said that basically, you could go, as long as there's been humans, there's been head lice. You could sprinkle human lice on your cats and dogs, and they would fall off. Every mammal, has lice. It's just one of those things. They've been around since cavemen, and we can't eradicate them, right? Because one, it's impossible to, and two, probably because they do not pose a health risk. Probably a lot of money, government money, isn't funded to, try to get rid of head lice, because they don't carry any disease, and they don't really, they're not, in the scheme of things, everything's relative. They're really not that big of a problem for the scientific community, I guess you can say. So basically he said you could go into a classroom and, any classroom, there would probably be somebody with head lice. It's just one of those things. And if you kind of fall into the thinking that they run rampant and that they're so easily, passed from head to head, every child in Milford would have head lice. Every school, every student all the time would have head lice. There would be 6 or 7 kids in each classroom all the time having head lice, and that's not the case. So basically, if head lice is something that you're really concerned about with your child, and you just have to check your child's head once a week. If it's a really big concern for you, and it's something that you've struggled with, and you get the total heebie-jeebies about, which is totally understandable, you as a parent have to check your child once a week. I mean, that's all there is to it. You know, you want a letter home that there's lice in the schools? There's lice in the schools. Check your child every week. It's just that simple. I mean, it's not, I know it's, once you get them, it's hard. It's a pain to get rid of them, but it's, you know, I think on the scheme of things, I think maybe Dr. Pollack was kind of, you know, he kind of had, you know, he approached it with humor, I guess, because when you work with children and you work with sick children and you see the relative of things like kids with diabetes, kids with cancer, kids with heart disease, and you think, you know, head lice really, it's very manageable and it's a short-term thing. And it's one of those things that's just gonna happen because there's head lice and there's kids. And it's been around for years, and no matter what the policy is, it's going to continue to be around for years. You can change the policy, which is with, you know, with standards. The American Academy of Pediatrics says it's the thing to do. The CDC says it's the thing to do. And we're professionals as nurses. We want to do what the most evidence-based research shows. And that's, you know, I agree with Mrs. Dagnes that you can't send kids home for something that, you know, it's just, it is what it is basically. And I found Dr. Pollack to be very enlightening. And I just think that, I don't know, just I can keep going on and on, but it's gonna always be head lice. It's just one of those things. And you really just have to check your own child, just like you have to check your child for ticks in the summer. Your kids are out playing in the summer in the woods, you know, you have to check them. And it's the same thing with head lice. In fact, ticks are a lot worse than head lice. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Mrs. Rice.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is there anyone else here for invitation to speak? Okay, seeing no one, we will move to our next agenda item, which is policy JLCC on head lice. Mrs. Judy Dagnes, our nursing director. Hi, Judy. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me. Hello. Before I present the proposed policy tonight, I would like to provide some background. I have handed out to the committee Franklin Public Schools PowerPoint presentation. We were able to share this information between our districts, and I felt instead of reinventing the wheel, I would share the same information with the committee about why current policies need to be updated. So, Franklin's Public Schools non-exclusionary policy concerning head lice. It starts with where did no-nit policies come from? No-nit policies where students are excluded from school because of live lice and nits were originally developed to stop the spread of head lice in schools. These policies were established years ago based on fear in response to social stigma and misconceptions about the spread of head lice rather than scientific evidence. Why change now? Head lice are rarely transmitted at school. Nits are not transmissible. Head lice feed on human blood. Off the host, they die within 24 hours. They do not fly or jump from one head, coat, backpack to another. The potential for misdiagnosis and the resulting improper use of pediculicides raise concerns about unsafe use of these products, specifically when no lice are present or when products are used excessively. Students infested with head lice are excluded unnecessarily from school and miss valuable academic time. Head lice also cause parents and guardians absences from work, millions of dollars misspent on remedies, and unnecessary treatments of misdiagnosed infestations. What the research says, there is no scientific evidence that warrants exclusion of children from school for discovery of head lice or their eggs. Head lice screening programs have not been proven to have a significant effect over time on the incidence of head lice in the school setting and are not cost-effective. It is the position of the National Association of School Nurses that the management of pediculosis should not disrupt the educational process. Nose disease is associated with head lice, and in school transmission is considered to be rare. By the time a child with an active head lice infestation has been identified, he or she may have this infestation for 1 month or more, and therefore poses little additional risk of transmission to others. From the Center of Disease Control, students diagnosed with live head lice do not need to be sent home early from school. They can go home at the end of the day, be treated, and return to school return to class after appropriate treatment has begun. Personal hygiene or cleanliness in the home or at school has nothing to do with getting head lice. The burden of unnecessary absenteeism to the students, family, and communities far outweighs the risks associated with head lice. And then it goes through facts or fiction. I don't know if I need to read all that to you. But I will go over what Franklin's policy that was developed in 2013 is. School nurses will screen any student who exhibits signs and symptoms of head lice. Children who are found to have head lice or nits will not be sent home from school. Parents will be notified before the end of the school day and advised to contact their health care provider for treatment options. Informational fact sheet on head lice will be provided to the parent. Classroom grade-wide notification letters will generally not be sent home unless deemed appropriate. Children will be allowed to return to school after treatment has begun. Children do not need to be screened by the school nurse prior to returning to school. Parents may request assistance from the school nurse to check their child's head after treatment. The presence of nits will not prevent a child from returning to school. Parents will be instructed to check their child's head on a regular basis to confirm treatment success or failure. And the benefits of change: minimize impact to students' time on learning, reduce stigma associated with head lice, limit unnecessary absences from school and parents' missed time from work, protection of students' privacy. School nurses can take the lead in incorporating evidence-based practice that reduce the stigma associated with head lice and work to increase classroom time with the emphasis on keeping students in school. And then the last page is all the sources and the sites that were used for this presentation. I am fortunate this evening to have one of Franklin School nurses, Leslie McGinnis, here with us tonight. She can attest to the fact that since the adoption of this policy in September, that there has been no increased incidence of head lice infestation in their district and no negative impact on students' health or learning. And before I present what our policy may be, I would just like to repeat that this is not the opinion of myself or our nurses. This is evidence-based data which all of our medical policies should be based on. Although we understand that some feel emotional about this topic, we have to rely on the scientific facts and the experts for policy development. So in front of you, I think, or on your iPads, you have what the proposed policy is. It's head lice in the school setting. The Milford Public Schools supports the recommendations outlined by the American Academy of Pediatrics, the Center for Disease Control, National Association of School Nurses, and the Department of Public Health with regards to the management of head lice in the school setting. Weekly head checks by parents resulting in early detection, treatment, and removal of lice and nits is the most reliable method of controlling head lice infestation. Our school nurses will screen any student who exhibits signs and symptoms of head lice. If the school nurse suspects evidence of head lice, the student's parent or guardian will be notified and advised to contact their health care provider for treatment options. At the nurse's discretion, the student may return in school until the end of the school day. Students will be allowed to return to school after appropriate treatment has begun. Parents may request assistance from the school nurse to check their child's head after treatment. The presence of nits will not prevent a child from attending school. And an informational fact sheet on head lice management will be provided to the parent of a student who has head lice infestation. Parents will be instructed to check their child's head on a regular basis to confirm treatment success or failure. Our school physician, Dr. Pariello, could not be here tonight. He is away. He approved this policy by stating, "It is succinct and to the point. I would never keep a child from taking the bus because of this. Further, I would be happy to help out on any given occasion that arises if this would help the parents and/or nurses." I also have a letter from our Board of Health Director. I have copies. I don't know, do you want me to read what it states?
Sure, you can read it.
Okay, it says, "Dear Judith, the Milford Board of Health is in support of the updated head lice policy you are proposing for Milford's public school district. It is reassuring that the policy is based on recommended guidelines by the Center for Disease Control, the the American Academy of Pediatrics, National and Massachusetts Association of School Nurses, and the Harvard School of Public Health. The ways in which school-managed head lice have begun changing over the last couple of decades, and this policy appears to reflect these changes. Currently, there is no scientific evidence demonstrating that enforced exclusion policies are effective in reducing head lice transmission. Pediculosis does not pose a significant health hazard and is not known to spread disease. The largest impact of head lice does not come from the condition itself, but from emotional reactions towards the condition. When enforcing a regulation or policy, the human side and intent of the regulation of policy should always be considered, and that is what this policy does. This policy is designed to help keep children from missing class, shield children with lice from embarrassment, and protect their privacy. This policy will also help reduce anxiety over head lice that can lead to inappropriate treatments that pose real and significant health hazards to the child or his or her household. The Milford Board of Health appreciates the time you and your staff have dedicated to this policy, and if there is any assistance we can provide, do not hesitate to ask. And I just wanted to mention, I know the National Pediculosis Association has been cited tonight, and it is really not a credible scientific or medical association. And although they are nonprofit, they are funded by Lice Meister, which is a treatment option for nits and head lice. And basically, that's it. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Committee? Mike?
Mrs. Dagnes, if I could.
Yes.
The town of Franklin already adopting the new policy.
Yes.
Milford's still using their old policy. I would say, Bob, the school district's enrollment probably pretty close to the same number.
Franklin's a little bit larger,
Okay.
but close.
And if you don't have the answer tonight, maybe you could get it for us, but what is the number of,
I do have the
You do?
number, actually.
Okay.
I don't know if Mrs. McGinnis, you want her to give the information?
you wanna come up, please?
The number of what are we listening to?
The difference in number of lice
Yeah.
cases before and
Right.
after, that's a helpful number.
So if you could, just using the elementary school, district in your town, the number of, reported cases this year versus what we have in our Milford schools. And can we compare them to see?
Well, my name is Leslie McGinnis. I'm a school nurse at Remington Jefferson in Franklin. And I've worked with Judy as a school nurse leader and other positions that I've held for a number of years. And prior to this year, we had a similar policy as Milford for the treatment and screening for head lice. We adopted our new policy beginning this September. So the data that I brought is collectively, our district this year currently has just over 5,800 students. Last year, we had just under 6,200 students. Last year, we had 42 cases of head lice, which accounts for 0.67%, so less than 1% of our population last year had head lice. This year, we have 38 cases of head lice across the district, which is 0.65%, or less than 1% of our total population. So we've had no change, and actually a few less. We're not to the end of the school year. We typically don't see lice this time of year, springtime into summer. It's more in the fall, wintertime. We have anecdotally, in speaking with the school nurses that I work with, the extraordinary amount of time that they spent on screenings and notification and letters and classroom-wide screenings is now better used for health education, more programs that they provide, screening for communicable diseases like flu and things that are actually deadly and can cause serious illness if not treated. It's been a much smoother school year. We had some concern from our parent population. We did school-wide presentations to our parent community councils, to our parents were invited to come in and listen to that. And we've had, and people were concerned, as your parent is concerned as well. And we just want to practice as school nurses across the state, across the country, evidence-based school nursing. And the evidence clearly supports a change in what the policies were. Just as, people have changed, evidence supports everybody should have a flu vaccine. Not everybody actually goes and has one, but we don't send children home from school because they don't have a flu vaccine. We don't send them home when they first sneeze or show signs of possibly having the flu. It's disease surveillance, and head lice is not a disease, so we look at it differently, and it's like treating when I've spoken with Dr. Pollock and other people, you're comparing two totally different entities. Head lice poses no risk to children, where flu poses a lot of risk to children. So we need to probably spend more time working on those kinds of communicable diseases and education for parents, and we're certainly glad to assist in Franklin parents if they have children and there's a concern for head lice. This is my 16th year in school nursing, and I was thinking about it before I came to the table, and in 16 years, I personally have probably seen less than 10 cases of head lice. And I've worked in Douglas, Blackstone Valley Tech, Neshoba Regional School District, and now in Franklin. So it's not rampant, it's not prevalent. In Remington and Jefferson, I have just under 1,000 students. I have not had one case all year that I've been notified about. Parents may choose to treat their children at home and not notify the school nurse or anybody at the school, and that's their prerogative, but I don't have any known cases just in my 2 schools. And I'm K through 8.
I think what's important, the facts that you just gave us, that since you put the policy in place, your enrollment in the district is down roughly 400 students, but your cases are following the decline as well.
Yes.
So you have a policy, a new policy, and instead of the enrollment falling and the number of cases increasing, because it's an epidemic, I guess is what an awful word to use, but the enrollment is down and the cases of the lice concern is following it as well.
That's it. Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Any other members?
Yeah, I have a couple. Judy, how many children had a lice infestation so far this year?
This year, we have approximately 17 cases.
And how many school days were missed because of that?
On the average, 2 to 3.
2 to 3. And it seems like we just reviewed the lice policy about a year ago. I'm wondering why we're reviewing it again so soon. What has motivated you to do some of this research?
Well, because of the new research that has come out, we really didn't change anything in what we've had for lice policy for probably the 20 years that I've been here. I think we looked at it last year.
We had a change last year where we decided we were going to stop notifying parents of all, which I agreed with. It was a smart policy change. I think not exposing children to chemicals is a smart thing. So we made that change last year, so now we're making another change this year. So I'm just wondering if this is an evolving policy that you're very engaged with it. I was wondering why.
Well, because this is what the latest data is showing us. It's the scientific research is showing us that we have to move away from what our past policy has and adopt this new policy. We have to go by what's, scientifically research-based. We brought it to your attention last year because Mrs. Montgomery did come to the committee, and that's why, she was unhappy with what the policy we had
Right.
last year. And that's why we've continued to research this. And that is why I did bring Dr. Pollock to the district, because I knew that there was going to be parental concern about the change in policy. So we had Dr. Pollock come. I expected, I set up chairs. I thought we were going to have an outpouring of, parents coming very concerned. We had on average 7 parents there. And when you think of how large our district is, we have over 4,200 students. That could account for probably 7,000 parents, and we had 7 parents there. We had other nurses from other districts. We had administrators there, a couple members of the school committee. So I guess I really don't see the concern that I thought from parents about the change in policy. I think when you present something that the American Academy of Pediatrics, the CDC, the National Association of School Nurses, that they're promoting and telling us, recommending us to do, I guess parents probably and administrators see the value of their research.
Any other members, Don?
Judy, first of all, I appreciate you coming to us with this information just as much as I appreciate Marcia coming in with the opposing information. So, and it helps us to take in, the concerns of the school, the nursing department, the parents, and everything else like that. So, my main concern isn't so much the net piece of it, and for people watching this on TV, and maybe you're hearing this for the first time, you know, when they're referring to the knit, they're talking about the egg stage, which is literally cemented to the hair follicles. So it's non-contagious, right? And the other research that you showed that, you know, there aren't diseases spread. So that's why it's not considered a health risk from the CDC. But going on the website of the CDC today, one of the things that's right on their webpage is to prevent it is to have kids avoid limit activities in school, sports, playgrounds, and all of these other things. So, and then, you know, I know in just doing some research before today's meeting that there's concern, and Marcia, you brought it up about super lice that isn't treatable with over-the-counter treatments, and that's an upcoming concern. So I don't know if we really even have enough information on that yet. And then again, I wanted to address, and I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Leslie McGinnis.
Leslie? Okay. So I appreciate the stats, but I mean, those are stats from 1 year. The district's gone down, and to me, I mean, what I heard is the numbers are pretty much the same. I don't look at head lice as being a big issue with kids missing school. 17 kids in the entire district, 2 to 3 days. I personally, have seen kids miss a lot more school. I've never heard of a kid being in an issue of possibly staying back for anything like that. So, but anyway, I know it's an important issue. Marcia, you're not the only parent who's reached out. We've all received emails, phone calls. I'll be honest, I haven't, and Judy, I know you're saying you had 7 people there, but I haven't had an outcrying like this since we decided to get rid of the French program down at the middle school. So there are a lot of parents that are concerned about this. There was only one recommendation that I wanted to make. So the knit, going back to the knit, I agree. If a kid has just knits and it's non-contagious, can they come back into the classroom to get them back engaged in their school activities sooner rather than later? I'm all for that. I think what the concern that I got from every one of the parents that reached out to us was the part about their son or daughter going back into the classroom once they've been diagnosed with it, when you know it's still active and able to be spread on to others. And again, it's not a disease thing, but for anybody who's had lice in their family, I remember one of my sisters had lice when we were little kids. It's a pain to get rid of
It's
it,
a nuisance,
and it's
I
an
agree
issue.
with that.
So the last thing you want to do, I think, is send a child back into the classroom. It ends up impacting another child, and all of a sudden, there's an uproar that we allowed a kid to go back in. So one of the things that I wanted to recommend and see if it's possible would be, could we just adjust that one piece of it? It doesn't have to match Franklin per se. No disrespect to them and their efforts and what they decided to do in their school. But could we, possibly look at that first piece where, once the child is identified with lice, allow that child to go home and have it treated, and then once treated, allow them to come back once, we realize that it's beyond the contagious period, right? And I think that was the overwhelming message that and I'm not speaking for the other committee members, but that's the thing that I heard over and over the last few days over the concern. So going back to the point that I was trying to make was, normally, Marcia, what happens is the subcommittee would sit with Judy, hear the concerns, and then come together collectively and listening to parents to make a recommendation to the school committee to accept a policy change. So again, this is our first time hearing Judy's presentation, which again, great job, Judy, and as well as your side of it. So, and it's kind of unfortunate because normally, again, the policy committee would do a lot of work on this beforehand. And we're in a situation where tonight, one of the members of the policy school committee is leaving. We have the election. There'll probably be another person added to that committee shortly after. So I know I would like to see that one bullet addressed. I don't know if it solves your concerns and everybody else's, but my recommendation would be to have the policy subcommittee, when we reconvene after the election, to address the policy that Judy's putting forward, and to just make some fine-tune adjustments to it based on the information that we've collected, and then present it back to us with the final conclusion, and make a final decision.
Rob?
That's just my opinion.
I'm sorry.
Just a second, sorry.
I wanted to jump on. I honestly, I'm not sure how I feel about the policy today, but one recommendation that I wanted to make, and I'm sorry, I'm looking at you, not the policy subcommittee anymore, is to maybe put a piece in there that requires proof of treatment before the child's back. So the child comes back with a receipt with the proper chemical treatment or a note from the doctor, just so we know that the child was treated. I think that would go a long way to address many of our parents' concerns.
Well-
And I think also, yes?
I was just gonna say, with all due respect, you know, we have children that we send home with strep throat or different illnesses that are contagious, that could be, you know, lethal, fatal, and we don't require proof that that child
Right,
is
but this
started
isn't a
on
contagious disease, this
antibiotics.
is an infestation of insects. And so I think one of my challenges, and one of the things that I'm most concerned about, honestly, is that if there were 7 parents at that meeting, I got phone calls from 4 of them. And I also got some phone calls from teachers. And my biggest concern today is that I don't think we as a school district did a very good job of making our staff and our parents feel comfortable that we were making the right decision. And so this isn't a laboratory, and we're not clinicians. We're public policymakers, and this is a public school building. And it's our responsibility to make the public comfortable that the decisions that we're making are the correct decisions. And so sometimes there's an emotional component to that. And I think that it's our responsibility to make the people who depend on us to make smart decisions for the school department. It's our responsibility to educate them in such a way, to inform them so they're very comfortable with these decisions. And I think that would go a long way towards making me support this policy. So that was my biggest concern, honestly, Judy. It's not about the science, and it's not, I understand the biology, honestly, and of course, I mean, all that stuff is correct. There's not disease that's being spread by these. They're a nuisance. I mean, they're like a mosquito, except more irritating because they're creepier, you know? And it's the creepy factor, quite frankly, that people react to. And so, you know, we need to combat the creepy factor by helping people understand why we're putting these pieces in place. So I think that was our failing, but we have time to correct that. And so, you know, I think that whether it's more public forums, I think the PowerPoint from Franklin was a great PowerPoint. You know, whether there are more pieces that we need, I think we need to put the community and our teaching staff at ease and make them comfortable about this change, because this is emotional. This isn't about, you know, there's no health risk to these children. You know, this is purely emotional, it's visceral, and as public policymakers, I consider it our responsibility to allay fears whenever possible.
Can I just
Christine?
first say something? This is our first reading of this policy,
Mhm.
correct? So in my 6 years, we have never, ever passed a policy on its first reading.
Absolutely.
Right.
Number one.
That was my point.
So let's be clear about this. It's a first reading. Number two, this committee has never made a decision just because another town has made that decision. We use other districts to inform us. We'd be remiss if we didn't do that. We wouldn't be doing our job. And number three, my career is evidence-based. This is what I do for a living. So if I want to find information out, I'm going to call the CDC. I'm going to call these organizations that are vouching for this policy. Does that mean we have to blanket it and put it to ours? No. But I just want to be clear. It's a discussion. So no one's voting on this tonight. No one's saying that parents' opinions aren't important. I have kids. I would hate for this to happen. I would hate it. And they would not like me if they had it happen either. But we have to make an informed decision, and we have to go to the experts. And if the experts are telling us this, more than one expert, more than one piece of evidence, more than one journal article, more than one scientist, it starts to point in the direction that there's a lot of support behind a policy such as this. The points that Dawn brought up, and I just lost your name.
It's okay, it's Patrick, it's okay.
Like, oh my God. This is why I need a break, I think. Anyways, are really valid points, but I think the policy is very sound for what we want to accomplish in the district, and it's a first reading. So this is what we do as a policy subcommittee. I'm not on anymore, but now these kind of discussions we can take together, we can talk about, we can have another reading. And usually by that reading, a lot of this information has been vetted, a lot of discussion has been made, and people feel good that whether it's popular or not, this is a decision that as a committee, we're going to make. So I just wanted to put that out there. It's a touchy issue, but I mean, even with the policy we have now, there's still head lice in the schools. Even with the policy we have now, kids are going to school with lice, and I could tell you how many kids, parents I know that said, don't tell anyone, they're going to school. Even with the policy we have now. And the tweaks we're making make us look good because they're evidence-based. We're not doing it to make the job easier for anybody in our schools. We're doing it because they're evidence-based.
Well put. Yeah, I think, I think there's been a lot of good points. I think Christine
Yeah,
is,
absolutely.
and she just, Christine, I think you touched on something that's critical, which is generally when we do pass any type of a policy, even after the policy subcommittee reviews it, of which I am one of the 50% right now, make up 100% of us after next week, but in about 2 weeks. But right now I make up 50% of. Even after Christine and I have an opportunity to do that, there's generally at least 1 to 2 more, sometimes even 3 more readings beyond that, because it's a subset. It is just by design a subcommittee. So I think it's good that we got the information, and thank you, Judy, and thank you, Leslie, for coming.
Okay.
We appreciate it's critical information. It's good that we do vet this and we ask the right questions. I think anytime we're designing a policy, and through the last now 2 years of working with Christine on the policy subcommittee, one of the questions that continues to get asked are a few different pieces. Does it make sense for the students? Is it in the best interest of the students? Is it in the best interest of the town? Is it something that's, anytime we create a policy, one of the first questions I want to look at is it something that can be policed and or enforced with a reasonable amount of effort by the people that are going to have to do it, which is in this case, our nursing staff, which do a great job, but work extremely hard already, and by the parents, so, and potentially even by the teachers. So I don't have all the answers to those questions yet. I don't think there's anybody that's looking to, certainly look to make a vote or a decision on anything tonight. I think it's good that we get the information. As a parent, I to Patrick's point, it's that creepy factor, and I get it. At the same time, we don't have a poison ivy policy either.
Absolutely.
And this is how I kind of look at it. It's a nuisance, and it absolutely is. And it's itchy, and it's uncomfortable, and it's bugs, and that kind of, I grew up with nothing but women in my household. I was the squasher of bugs. I still am at home. And you know what? That's how my wife and my mother and my sister want it. It's that creepy factor, and I get it. And we've got to make sure that we balance that policy, though, not just based on that. We've got to balance that policy based on what parents are comfortable with and what our students are, and what's in our best interest of our students and our administrators. It's that three-way balance, and it always needs to be.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to pile on, Judy. Could you email, are these live links in the PowerPoint? So are they clickable in the PowerPoint, or they're just like
The
dead notes?
sources?
Yeah.
I don't believe.
Did you send
no.
us the PowerPoint?
I didn't get an
You just
electronic
gave us a hard
version of
I
it.
just gave you a hard
Would you-
copy.
would
I
you
can
mind?
send you the
Thank you very
PowerPoint,
much.
yes. And the information from the CDC also, which,
we have that.
if you read that first paragraph, that kind of supports everything that I presented tonight.
Great.
Any other questions?
No, but I would just like to add too, I think we have a solid foundation here to move forward with, and it sounds like the pleasure of the committee certainly is to, review it a little further. So thank you so much for coming in
You're
and
welcome.
for giving us all
You're
the
welcome.
information. Good seeing you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you, ladies.
Good night, thank you.
So, Rhonda, just one quick question. So what would the next step be? Do we have to wait for the new policy subcommittee to be formed and start to review?
Well, yeah, I don't think we're gonna want unless they were able to get together in the next week, I think that would probably be the best course of action. We have 2 new members coming on. You most likely would appoint or vote on an additional or 2 additional members to that policy subcommittee. Let them vet through that. They'd come back with a second reading, and they could consult with Judy, and there would be an additional vote on that policy. Yeah. Okay, next up, we have our SAD group here with us this evening. Come on up. Good evening. Thanks for coming in. We got shirts, we got signs.
Like them both. Love the shirts. Look at all those. Look at all that writing.
Hi, tell us who you are.
Hi, I'm Amy Kay. I'm the vice president of SAD.
I'm Emily. I'm the president.
I'm Annie, I'm the treasurer. And I'm Jessica, and I'm the secretary.
I'm Diana Dow, I'm the SAD advisor.
Good for you. Thanks for coming.
Discuss head lice, or is that?
No, but that was,
I'll keep my opinion to myself.
yes.
Well, yeah, I understand you've done some good work. I'd love to hear about it. I'm sure as the rest of the committee would too.
So we got a grant from the Chinna 6 group, which it promotes the same message that SAD does. And so we applied for a grant to do a school-wide activity. And with the money that they gave us, we got $900. And so we got, it was roughly 100 of these shirts that we created, and they say, I pledge on the front, and then on the back, it has just some broad things that we pledged not to do, not to drink underage, not to give in to drugs and smoking, not to ignore bullying, and not to text and drive. And then we also bought a banner that we had all the schools sign at lunch where they made some type of pledge. If it wasn't one that we suggested, they could write their own that they would stick to. And these are all the people that chose to partake and pledge against something. And we raffled off those 100 t-shirts. So I see other people wearing them, so that's good.
Great. Excellent.
Good for you. Congratulations.
Yeah,
That's
very nice.
something, you know, and $900 is a lot of money. And,
Yeah.
I give you a lot of credit for putting in for the grant and for standing up for something that is so very important, not only to the students, but everyone in our community. Scott?
Yeah, first off, thank you. And I know that it's not an easy thing because when you first raise your hand and jump and sign up for something like SAD, SAD's been around a long time. I remember being part of it when I was in high school. Kudos to you guys for taking this step forward and taking on not just being a member of it, but being the leadership group that runs this group. I love some of the things that I'm seeing in the back. I will not to bully, not to text and drive. I think that's one that the alcohol and the drugs is something that's, I think, students have been battling and trying to stay above that influence for a long time. We've got some new ones that are jumping in now with bullying and texting. They're very real, and that's a huge commitment. I have a teenage daughter who will be driving in far too close as far as time frame is concerned. And I watch her text, constantly, and that's a very scary thing. So it's, kudos to each of you guys. Thank you ladies for coming in front of the committee, and you're delivering some great messages and being tremendous role models for your peers. So, congratulations.
Thank you.
I was a member of SAD too when I was in high school, and I can't tell you how great it is to see that you added, no texting and no bullying to the back of that T-shirt. I think that's so important, and I hope that you realize that by just talking about these things and by putting them on T-shirts and by having discussions about it, in little ways you influence people to make better decisions. And so, maybe we're not gonna go out and change the entire world and have them all decide to do something completely different just because you talk to them about you shouldn't be texting while you're driving or you shouldn't engage in bullying. But those little things that you do, the aggregate of them, they have an enormous impact. And so I know that, I think I speak for every member of the committee when we say we're all very proud of you. And we're so pleased that you're students at Milford High School and that you really are honoring the high school and honoring the town. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Mike?
I would like to as well say thank you. I just said to Mr. Harrison, SAD wasn't around when I was in high school. But, great job. One thing that I've spoken about quite a bit in the 5 years that I've been here, when the SAD students come before us, is, and a very important part, is seatbelt wearing. And I know in years past, they've even had days where I believe, Mr.
That was
Dow, if I'm
today.
wrong,
That was
yeah,
today.
We had a
Where you-
seatbelt observation.
seatbelt observation and the number of your fellow students that aren't wearing them.
How was it,
And
actually?
It was good. We actually have incorporated, it's been for a few years, where if we see that they're wearing their seatbelt, we give them a flyer for a free cookie at lunch, so a little incentive. And it says, "You've been caught wearing your seatbelt." And then on the back is the coupon. And they love it, and it brings awareness to SAD. And they're like, "Oh my God, I love SAD."
The reason I asked that question, and I'd love to do, I've always, volunteered to do an educational piece, being in the automobile industry, on seatbelts. Airbags have no effect if you don't have your seatbelt on. Because the airbags are designed, and especially today, if you could see the airbags that are in my new company car out there, that you've got side airbags, you've got knee airbags, you've got frontal airbags. And the airbags, they have no effect if you don't have your seatbelt on, because on impact, you go one direction, and the airbags are designed to come another direction. And so, we actually watch training films, and you actually can see somebody in an accident in the vehicle, strapped in a seatbelt, totally surrounded by airbags. And then they show us other training films where the person doesn't have their seatbelt on, frontal collision, and they go down by the glove box, and all the airbags go by them, and they're seriously
That's
injured.
such a great point, Mike. People don't think about that. That's
Yeah,
such a great
it's-
point.
And what it is the seatbelts are designed today, what we call passive restraint. They allow you to move around, okay, in the car, even though you have it on. On impact, they automatically jam you in one position to the seat so you can't move. And once that happens, the airbags are coming, and they'll save your life. They truly do. So that's an important part of this whole program. You know, we talk about drinking and driving and drugs and things like that, is proper seatbelt. Put it on, click it. It's there for a reason, you know? And I think that's an important educational process. We need to get into this program, you know? And, I've even offered in the past, let me come in, I'll blow a couple of airbags off out in the back field. It'll scare you enough to put your seatbelts on, trust me, you know?
And that,
So.
Mike, to echo Pat, I think you bring up such a great point. For somebody who, a little over a year ago, was in a head-on collision, in a newer vehicle, and had every airbag in the car go off.
Yeah.
And thank God we had our seatbelt in, I literally didn't move. It's funny, you were saying that, it allows you to move. Head-on collision, I was doing about 35 miles an hour on a 40 mile an hour zone, and a car came out of nowhere, and it was an absolute, just head-on collision. Airbags went off, seatbelt went on, my 13-year-old daughter was in the passenger seat. Not a mark on either one of us, the airbags didn't touch us, and we both walked away. We were a little shaken, it was a long night that night, but not a mark on us. And
Yeah.
we not only lived to tell the story, but with zero injuries.
And what we do now is we actually, in the buckles, we use what we call pretensioners. And they're the last stage. They measure the impact of the collision. And when airbags first came out, we used to just blow them off. They'd knock your glasses off, break your nose, but you lived, Now we actually blow them off depending on how severe the accident is. We not blow them off full blast at you, And there's a lot to it.
Amazing.
Yeah, it really is. All computer controlled, and the next phase we have now is, and again, part of that, you gotta have it on, we have the new active head restraint. So you look at the headrest, it looks like a headrest. On impact, when you start to go forward, a section of the headrest comes out on springs and actually meets the back of your head. And all you do is you take the head, you snap it back in. We actually download some. And it's part of this, it's education. We try to educate people, when
It's only as
airbags
good as
go
you
off.
use it.
Exactly, when the airbags go off, the inside of the car fills up with it's white, and people panic, they think it's smoke, it's cornstarch. We put cornstarch in the bag, so when they're whacking you, they just glance off you. We teach people, don't panic. Stay strapped in, stay in the car. You're gonna be all right, but it's an educational process. And it can be scary, as Scott said, if you're not used to it.
Smelled bad too.
It might be something we can consider, Absolutely.
I just want to ask, congratulations. It's always hard to write a grant. It's always hard to ask, what was the organization that gave you the grant?
China 6.
What is that?
I don't know exactly, but they are a group that reached out to us,
Oh,
and
neat.
I corresponded with one of the representatives. Her name was Ellen, and she told us some ideas that we could go off of, and she wanted us to pretty much do an activity that involved a larger group rather than just our SAD people, so that we reached a wider audience. So that they had the same values that SAD has against the texting and the drinking and the drugs, and they encompass more things like body issues and things like that. So I just thought it would be a good idea to bring something like to the school. We have posters up that the SAD kids do, and they're all over the hallway. So whenever you're walking, you see them, and you're hit with message after message every 5 feet. But this really like makes them get involved versus just seeing something and they can walk by it, but now they have to do something.
I think it's a very admirable organization, and
They're
I think
local.
it's
They're
that.
local,
Oh, they are.
And it's Community Partners for Health.
Oh, okay.
Milford.
That's
Yeah,
great.
Metro West and Ellen
Okay.
Friedman's the
Yeah.
link.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah, that makes sense.
great. You know, I think
Local's nice, yeah.
it's one thing to join an organization like SAD. It's another thing to preach what all these different messages are, and then it's another thing to be an example of that practice. And I think that's really admirable and noble, and will take you far if you do this now. You know, if you're strong enough and confident enough to send this message to your peers now, then great things will come.
Thank you.
So
Thank
I
you.
just wanted to thank you for your involvement in the program. I know Scott said it's been around forever, and Mike said he wasn't around when he was in school. And I think I can say I was probably part of the first SAD group here in Milford. So, but anyway, the thing is, what you guys are doing is just building awareness, and that's such an important thing, especially for teenagers. And not only that, you're involved in a group, and you're leaders. You're coming together and really helping out your community as well as your fellow students. So I applaud you for that. Are you, the 4 of you seniors?
Yes.
All right, so is everybody going off to college?
Yeah.
We get those acceptance letters yet? So anyway, so congratulations on that. And this is something that I hope you carry on into your college career and back to the community, whether it's here or somewhere else. So again, thank you very much, and good luck in your college career activities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, ladies. Keep up the good work. And Ms. Dowd, thank you for your involvement.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss them. They're really hardworking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no doubt. Great.
And
Good
they've
luck,
been in
ladies.
SAD for 4 years. You moved here in 10th grade, right?
Yes.
So everybody else is
Good.
Nice.
in
That's
SAD all
great.
4 years.
No,
That's commendable.
You got a lot, you got 4 new members that you're gonna need to get recruited into.
And thank you to everybody else in the group too, not just the
Yeah.
4
How
of
big
you,
is your group?
Everybody who's in.
Roughly 30.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's good.
What do you have lined up as Senior Week approaches? I know we have a couple of months before that happens, but that's a busy time for your group as well, right?
Well, we just did this activity today, the seatbelt check, and then we're gonna start planning the mock accident,
That's a good
which
one.
is the day before prom.
Yeah.
People
and
may not know about that. That's why I wanted to bring it up. I think it's such an important endeavor that we do. Could you maybe just describe? It's okay with you, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Just to describe a
we
little bit
like
about that.
to show the seniors a simulation of what could happen if they drink and then drive on prom night. So we work with the fire department and Mr. Osier. He comes in and he helps us plan it. He used to be a firefighter, and they have 2 like cars that are already destroyed, and they set them up. And then we have actors. We choose them from our grade so that it's really impactful. And we have a scene where there's a drunk driver and he gets carted off by the police, and we have a couple of people die, and they show like that's what happened. So there's one that was dead on impact, and then one that dies in a hospital scene. And so it takes the students through the car wreck, setting the scene, to like a hospital scene where one of their classmates has died, and then we have like a funeral where we have people give actual eulogies for the dead students and like how they could have gone on and done amazing things. And we have pallbearers walk down the caskets that we get from a local funeral home. So it's really a community-wide coming together on this issue.
That's a great event. I mean, nothing sends a message to, kids who are thinking or not thinking about what to do or what not to do than these mock scenarios that you put them through. I give you a lot of credit. I think it's a powerful, powerful message.
I just need to add to something you said, because you said community, so I just want to say Milford Fire Department, Milford Police Department, Milford Regional Hospital, EMTs, Consigli Funeral Home, and Plains Auto supplies those 2 cars, so I figured since we were.
Plug 'em all.
I wanted to let you know.
No, I mean, it's and I'm glad you did that. That's important to mention them. it is such a powerful message, and that's been going on. SAD's been doing that a long time. I remember it going through, I'll date Patrick, when Patrick was in high school.
It was only 75 years
And
ago.
watching it, I know, right? And watching it, and it was, I mean, it is so powerful and so emotional, to sit through that, and you're watching, you're literally sitting next to a friend of yours you're watching this, and you know it's by name a mock accident, and there is not there's people have a very severe emotional reaction to it, but it can create a lot of very positive movement and prevention.
That's
So.
very true, because you mentioned eulogies. My son did the eulogy in his class and had to sit down and write it. And he said, Dad, he said, I got halfway through it. And he said, I thought it was gonna come apart.
Yep.
And he said, I had to keep telling myself that it's and not to make light of it, it was an act, it was fake. But he said, all of a sudden, you just feel like you get this overwhelming feeling like you're really at a service, and you're delivering this message for your friend that you're never gonna see again. And he says, and you look out in the audience, and the kids are the same way. He said that to this day, still how powerful the actual eulogy and the funeral service is. That's like the last thing, like, so, yeah.
Thank you so,
Excellent job.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you,
Keep
thank
up
you.
the good work. Thank you.
Yeah.
Next up, report of the superintendent of schools, Bob.
This evening, I just have an update on the Woodland School project. The letter that I referenced earlier that's at your seat, once the town meeting approved the project, we knew the next step would be, at some point down the road, we'd have to address middle school use, the future use of that. And what this letter serves to do is to sort of put this on everyone's radar, to say, we know this is a couple years out, we're not at this point, we're not able to declare this surplus building, we still need it for schools. But at some point, and we don't want to wait 2 years before we begin to think about that. So this went to the Board of Selectmen. Town Council reviewed this before it went out to them to make sure that, it's compliant with the statutory language. And I haven't had a response yet, but I wanted the committee to at least be aware that that did go out. And as far as updates on the Woodland project, last week we were at the School Building Authority. The we there being the chairman, Aldo Chakey, Jonathan Bruce, vice chairman of the School Building Committee, myself, and Rick Villani, town administrator, along with our representatives from Jocelyn Lesser and our architects, to present. The MSBA went through this schematic design work that we have to date to make sure that everything checked out before it goes. It's sort of a precursor to their board meeting, so there's no surprises. We've worked with them and cleaned up any issues that there were. There was nothing major at all. So we expect that the board will approve the project going forward, which is the next step in this. So March 26th, which is our next meeting, I've invited, I believe Melissa sent you a copy of the letter to Representative Fernandez, Senator Moore. Okay.
She did, yep.
And they will both be in attendance at the meeting on March 26th. That will be at the Massachusetts School Building Authority in Boston. And at that point, we expect there'll be an approval for the project, in which case then we now move forward to the design work, the real detailed drawing work.
Yep.
And that will be exciting as we, the next 6 or 8 months. And then we break ground and off we go.
It's really
So,
moving along.
It's moving
Yeah.
along, and it's a fairly lengthy packet that I included in this week's. I know you have a hard copy there.
Yep.
But that goes through, gives you all the planning, the construction phasing, the timelines, and all this is posted on our website. If it's not posted after the meeting, it will be. We on the Milford Public Schools website, we have a tab dedicated to the Woodland project, and that's where these files will live.
Good.
So unless there's any questions, that's just the update. We're moving along very well. It's been a busy time for the Woodland School Building Committee, but very exciting.
Good, that's great news.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's all I have this evening on that part of the report.
And you can probably pick right up with the assistant superintendent's business?
Yes,
Yep.
Kathy couldn't be here this evening. She's injured while on vacation, so hopefully we wish her a speedy recovery.
Oh,
And Kevin.
know.
Yeah, she's recovering fine. Just where she injured herself, not able to cast it, not able to. So it's just kind of dealing with the pain. So we wish her well, and hopefully she'll be back with us next week. Of all the times when you're on vacation to injure yourself, so I have the duty of.
Writing hand, Bob?
Yeah, right. I had to do her dirty work for her. I know. That's right. So I do have 7 warrants this evening for your approval. They're all here, so I'll have to circulate these to be signed. Start with you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
The first warrant is in the amount of $11,028.89.
Motion from Don, second from Patrick, all in favor? Unanimous in favor?
The second warrant is in the amount of $241,040.18.
Motion from Joe, second from Christine, all in favor? Unanimous in favor?
The third warrant is in the amount of $10,805.46.
Motion from Scott, second from Mike, all in favor? Unanimous in favor?
The fourth warrant is in the amount of $241,982.23.
Motion from Patrick, second from Christine, all in favor? Unanimous in favor.
The fifth warrant is in the amount of $26,624.84.
Motion from Christine, second from Scott, all in favor? Unanimous in favor.
The sixth warrant is in the amount of $166,764.13.
Motion from Joe, second from Don, all in favor? Unanimous in favor.
And finally, the seventh warrant in the amount of $282,282.40.
Motion from Mike, second from Scott, all in favor? Unanimous in favor.
And there are some gifts this evening,
Yes,
Mr.
there
Chairman.
The first gift we have is from Microsoft, a gift in kind for Visual Studio Pro Full Edition, 80 units of Expression Studio 4, Ultimate Full Edition, and Ultimate and Full Edition 20 units, valued at $41,600. Very generous donation. Why don't I go through all of these and we'll take one motion, I think. Next gift we have is from the Gen Youth Foundation, Child Obesity 180 ASP. It's the second half gym teachers morning program for that program in the amount of $500. Wow, we got a lot of them in here. We have another donation for Mr. and Mrs. Gaikima. Am I saying that right, Mom?
It looks like it. Yeah, I don't know that name, so.
Gaikima from Family Network, Family Network gift for contract services and supplies in the amount of $25. Another gift from Sandra Knapp, Family Network gift for contract services and supplies in the amount of $50. IPVO grant by Marcia Anzalone for an interactive whiteboard system valued at $3,000. Oh, there's more. And last but not least, from the Raytheon Corporation, Dr. Robert Gilmore, MassDem Teacher of the Year Award runner-up. It was a science-based community science-based community service projects, college and career readiness programs in the amount of $1,000. So again, that was nice recognition for Dr. Gilmore as well. So that what a nice gift. All very generous donations, which we appreciate very much. I have a motion from Christine and a second from Patrick. All in favor? Unanimous in favor.
Okay, and I'm not sure I think anything else on the agenda, Kathy, will have to just table to the next meeting. If anything, she has to give an update, but I believe this is the personnel updates.
FY14 budget update, personnel update, and professional development. She'll cover that next
She'll
meeting.
cover that at the next meeting.
Just one quick question.
Yep.
There is a jury duty.
I was gonna say, a jury duty requires.
I think it already
It
happened,
requires
though.
a vote. It has already happened March 3rd.
March 3rd. So
Oh.
I'm not sure why or how that's here now, but
It's over.
it's over, so.
Mike, you don't have your jury duty.
If you wanna- If you want to take a motion, I suppose we can always, log it. But it's after the fact now, so I'm not sure why it appeared on this warrant, to be honest with you.
Well, we have a motion to accept that jurors'
Sure.
Yes.
service
Yeah.
from Mike,
Put on record.
Yeah,
second
just to have
from
a
Joe.
record,
All in favor? Unanimous in favor. Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea. Okay, and we'll catch up with Kathy on the rest when she's back.
Sure.
Do any members have any new business? Seeing none, do any members have any old business?
I have old business. In the sense, I just wanted to thank the voters of Milford for giving me the opportunity to serve these past 6 years. You know, I've always come in and stayed the course, and what I'd like to leave with my fellow members and any new members that come on board is remember why you're here. You're here to make education the best possible we can deliver to the Milford students, to the families of Milford, and to our taxpayers for the best bang for their buck, so that we're continuing to be as proud of the schools as we are today into the future.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well said, Christine. I'd like to extend my sincere thanks as well to the taxpayers and the community at large, and all my fellow committee members. It's been a great experience. You know, it's been a growing and a learning experience nonetheless, and I feel very fortunate to have had the privilege of serving people. And I think the best part for me really was getting to know a lot more of our students more personally, as well as a lot more of the teachers, as well as our administrative staff, who I think all of them are second to none. And I hope the district is a little better off today than it was when I started 3 years ago. So, yeah, thank you. Well said, too,
Thank
Christine.
you.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to both you and Dr. Boyle just to say thank you. I know you were doing the discussion earlier, and I stepped out to get the waters that I forgot to bring. But I wanted to just thank you both and for your service to the school committee, for the town of Milford, the support you've given me, the administrative team, the teachers here, in various, with this contract negotiations, various budget cycles over the years. Your support has meant a lot to me personally, and certainly to the administration and to the teachers in this district. And you'll both be missed. Thank you.
Thank you. It's an exciting time for the district, you know?
really is.
We've hit we hopefully bottomed out from the budget, and just good things are happening.
Yep.
It's very exciting.
Yeah, thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
That is all we have. Do I have a motion to adjourn from Christine?
I'll say it, yeah.
A second.
Robbie, I was just gonna say, I still can't believe you have such short meetings, and I'm gonna miss that, you know?
I prefer them, I prefer them referred to as being efficient.
Yes, well said.
But I appreciate that very much.
It's amazing that even with all that, it's only 8:30. I
I
don't
know.
even wanna end this meeting for you and
Very true.
Christine. I think we
Dawn,
should carry
Dawn,
on.
keep going. 3.5, 4-hour meetings we used to have.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
I'm happy I didn't have those.
That's right.
Anyway,
I'm like,
Oh, good.
just
Thank
making it stretch out a little longer for you, Rob.
Very good. We have a motion on the floor from Christine to
Yes,
adjourn.
motion.
We have a second from Joe. All in favor? Motion meeting adjourned.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Good night.